Hello everyone, my name is Joshua, who is in charge of the technical service of IDC, Industrial Device Connectivity. Today, I'm going to introduce three basic endpoint operation modes. There are TCP Server, TCP Cry, and UDP Mode. For endpoint product, you can choose different OP modes for specific applications. There are four basic OP modes which are very important. There are Realcom, TCP Server, TCP Cry, and UDP Mode. But Realcom mode is not included in the course. If you want to learn Realcom mode, you can select the other course which is named Endpoint Realcom Mode. So, in the lesson, we will focus on the rest of three OP modes. So, in the lesson, you will get 2 points. One is the application of three OP modes, and the other is how to configure the OP modes in the endpoint. This is my agenda. I will separate it into 3 parts. The first one, I will introduce what TCP Server Mode is. The second part, I will let you know what TCP Cry Mode is. And the last part, I will introduce you what UDP Mode is. They are including applications and how to configure OP mode in endpoint. Well, are you ready? Let's move the first part, TCP Server Mode. As we know, TCP, Transmission Control Protocol, is the most commonly used protocol on the internet. In order to use it, we need to build a socket application based on TCP protocol. But for TCP protocol, there are 2 types. One is TCP server and the other is TCP client. The main difference between them is connection in a different direction. The first I would like to talk about is TCP Server Mode. For TCP Server Mode, it means endpoint is same as TCP server. Sometimes, your customer asks you a question, that is, when should I use TCP Server Mode? The answer shows on the screen. I give you an example. We assume computer is a central control office, which has firewall protection. Endpoint is at remote site, such as in factory, mining, oil pipe, and so on. Under the situation, the connection way should be from computer to endpoint. So, we will suggest customer to use TCP Server Mode for endpoint, TCP Client for the computer, because firewall will avoid the connection establishment from outside. Here is an example that shows the application for endpoint TCP Server Mode. You can see the computer, which has socket program as a TCP client and endpoint as a TCP server. Also, endpoint is connected with the router by using serial cable. Now, we assume the router's Ethernet port is failed in communication. So, we want to enter the backdoor of router by serial port to see the status. In order to connect with router through endpoint, socket program in computer will actively establish connection with endpoint. After connection, computer and router can communicate with each other. Besides, the second generation endpoint 5000 series can support up to 4 hosts, and third generation endpoint 6000 series can support 8 hosts using the same COM port together. It's especially suitable for data backup. However, there's an important point I need to remind you. If you configure endpoint to accept connection more than 2 hosts, it will be just for transmitting raw data. In other words, your COM port program cannot set I/O control parameters to these COM ports anymore. The communication parameters are predefined in endpoint's firmware. In the page, we will learn how to set TCP Server Mode in TLNPort. There are many ways, such as using Telnet console or serial console. Here, I show you using web console. The setting is very simple. It only has few steps. You just enter the web console page and select TCP Server as operation mode. Then, you should choose the socket port for receiving data. After setting, remember to save and restart. That's it. See? It's very simple, isn't it? After TCP Server Mode introduction, learning TCP client will become very easy. Just as I told before, when using TCP protocol, you have to build a socket program in the computer, no matter it is TCP client or TCP server. Well, now let's move to the next part. What is TCP Cry Mode? Please take a look on the slide. There are a computer as a TCP server in central control office and TLNPort as TCP client at remote site. If customer has no idea in choosing OP mode, you can suggest customer to use TCP Cry Mode. It can actively establish connection with computer as a TCP server. If you set TCP Server Mode, it might not work because central office might prevent from outside connection because of the firewall protection. Now, I give you an example about card reader for TCP Cry Mode application. We assume there is a card reader and behavior is if the card reader would like to get the data from database, TLNPort will actively make a connection with socket program to get the information. In order to meet the requirement, we will set TLNPort as a TCP client and socket program as a TCP server. But sometimes, the application might use with TLNPort advanced function, because database might have the number of limited connection. When card reader would like to get the data, TLNPort will actively connect with socket program by getting serial data or modem signal. After collecting information, TLNPort has many options to disconnect TCP connection. Due to the design behavior, it can prevent from a large number of TCP connections in database at the same time. See? According to the example, now you know TLNPort is a powerful solution between serial and Ethernet. As I mentioned before, TLNPort can support up to 4 hosts using the same COM port together. It's especially suitable for data backup. It will be just for transmitting raw data. In other words, your COM port program cannot set I/O control parameters to those COM ports anymore. The communication parameters are predefined in TLNPort's firmware. In the page, it's about how to set TCP Cry Mode by using web console. You have to choose OP mode as TCP client and it needs to know the IP address and the licensed socket port of TCP server. From the screenshot, you can easily realize TLNPort can accept up to 4 TCP server connections for each serial port at the same time. After introducing TCP server and TCP client, now I'm going to talk about the other OP mode, UDP mode. In order to using UDP mode, you also need to build a UDP socket application for the system. Here shows the example. If customer's requirement is to have real-time data transmission and the application can endure some data loss, you could suggest customer to configure TLNPort as UDP mode. Since UDP doesn't need to establish connection before sending data, so the data would be real-time, but it cannot guarantee the data will not lose. There is one more thing that I would like to highlight. For TLNPort 5000A series, you could type the IP address of the assign multicast group into the destination IP address column, after which the endpoint will automatically add the group and start receiving all packets from the group in accordance with the multicast function. In the page, it's another usage of UDP mode. You can specify up to 4 ranges of IP addresses, and 1 destination range must be provided at least. For example, NPort range of IP addresses start from 192.168.127.1 to 192.168.127.230. It means if NPort gets serial data, it will transmit data to those IPs we configured. Take Web Console as an example. You just select UDP mode in the column operation mode and type the IP address for a multicast group and UDP program of socket port from the other side for receiving data. That's it. This is my last slide. Here just to recap some points. For TCP applications, the appropriate mode depends on whether the connection will be initiated from the NPort serial port or from the network. The main difference between the TCP and UDP protocols is that TCP guarantees delivery of data without loss. UDP doesn't require this type of verification, making it possible to offer speedier delivery. UDP also allows multicasting of data to groups of IP addresses and would be suitable for streaming media or non-crucial messaging applications such as LED message boards. Thanks for your time and congratulations to you to finish the course. Remember to take the quiz of the lesson to check how much you have learned. Thank you.